MIDDLEKAUFF! Hey!
John, check out this article from Bruce Feldman of The Athletic. Sources inside Michigan think Jim Harbaugh would take the Las Vegas Raiders job if offered. It includes this line. Multiple sources inside the Michigan football program told The Athletic this week that they think if Harbaugh is offered the Raiders head coaching job, he'd take it. I think so too. What do you think?
Well, we got to put our conspiracy theory hats on. There's two things. One, he legitimately wants the Raider job, which I think some people, including ourselves, kind of believe. I'm not like 100% believe that he'd just jump at the Raider job. I do think that the brand matters to him. He started his career there. Heard Michael Lombardi say on his podcast a couple weeks ago, when Jim was hired, every single morning you would hear him play Autumn Wind. Football, the history of football means a lot to Jim Harbaugh. You and I have been around that team. It is pretty cool in terms of the history that's around it, right? The former players that come around, the Madden. It matters. He's boys with John Madden. I think the other thing that has to be acknowledged here is that he might just be fucking with Michigan heavily because it is very believable. They made him take a pay cut, and he's trying to get his money back. / could you guys kiss my ass a little bit? Remember, this program was kind of a joke when you hired me, and I think you guys kind of acted like I didn't live up to the hype. And then I took your ass to the playoffs, and I beat Ohio State as just a fan of football. It's one of the cooler games I've watched of the last decade, right? And the experience. Can I get hey guys, Mel Tucker, who everyone thinks highly of, and I'm impressed by him, just got $95 million. He's never done anything. Can I get my $95 million? Right?
And not just took his money. Harbaugh's base salary for 2021 dropped to $4 million. He'd been paid over $8 million in 2020. Now, as we know, Jim doesn't stay places long for the most part. 4 years.
Longest he's ever stayed anywhere is here.
7. Now, he seems from the outside to be a little more low-key. Something tells me behind the scenes, low-key wouldn't be the word that people would use. But there's no question that everywhere he goes is very successful. But I'm with you. There's nothing about Jim Harbaugh's past, and we covered him up close and personal when he was the coach of the 49ers.
It was awesome.
That makes me think he'll just forget about the time they made him take a 50% pay cut, right? And basically put his job on the line. So is it his alma mater? Yes. Do I think he wants to coach there? Yes. Do I think he wants to be in the NFL? Yes. Are both sides of these theories very realistic? Yes, right? Him and Mark Davis. There's not a big circle that Mark Davis has. Jim Harbaugh, in terms of contacts and / the Venn diagram of his contacts / people that could coach his team, is very small. And Jim is in that crossover. So I do think it makes a lot of sense here for Jim to use it as leverage. But I'll go back to this. Feldman's first report about Harbaugh was on January 5th. That was, as we record this, 2 weeks ago. So if he's using it for leverage, it doesn't seem like there's been much contract movement in the last 2 weeks, right? You would think that Michigan would know whether Jim was using the Raiders for leverage or not, that they're going to need to change his contract status, unless they're not all that interested in doing it. So if there's been any movement, it's been very much behind the scenes. Now, the Raiders season is done. This is the time for Harbaugh to strike if it's simply a leverage play. But if it's a leverage play, it's been out there for 2 weeks and nothing's happened, which is why I think there's a real possibility that it's real.
Yeah, the longer he goes without signing a Michigan extension, the more and more it feels like he's going to go to the Oakland Raiders or the Vegas Raiders, because they had to follow some protocols, right? They had to interview a minority candidate. They had to, given what he did. I know Vic Tafur reported he was interviewing Rich today. He deserved a real interview. Sit down with him, talk with him. It's probably not a true interview because you've been around him now for 6. But I mean, sit down and talk with him. Mark's timeline has been a little different than Jim, but I'm with you. The longer he goes without signing the Michigan contract, it's hard. I do believe the only NFL job right now, as of today, that Jim Harbaugh would leave Michigan for would be the Vegas Raiders. I don't believe he'd go to the Bears. I don't believe he'd go to the Giants. I could be wrong. This is just a gut feel. I do think that history and that experience he had with Al Davis starting his coaching career, that shit means a lot to Jim Harbaugh.
It matches, I think the mystique of it matches kind of what he thinks football is, right?
Bill Walsh,
Story that he
Stanford, the
has.
49ers, Bill Walsh, Michigan, his place, Bo, the team, and now the Raiders. Like he's not coaching the Jags, obviously with Balky, but just in general.
Right. He bright lights guy, as you've always said for Jim. All right. Very interesting. As news breaks, we'll be here. Ham on your side. Yeah.
If it's official that Jim Harbaugh is the head coach of the Vegas Raiders, what's the crazier moment? The John Gruden moment, the official Jim Harbaugh?
The John Gruden hired moment or the John Gruden fired
I'm saying
moment?
both of them hired. The day they're hired. What was the bigger? Whoa.
Ooh, that's tough. I mean, Gruden had been out there for a long time, right?
A lot of people had gone fishing for him.
Nobody could get. The Raiders had a sitting coach when they hired Jack Del Rio. There wasn't an opening.
Yeah, nope.
So I don't want to be. My gut tells me Harbaugh's bigger. I don't want to be prisoner of the moment right now because the Gruden thing was pretty damn big, and then he signed a 10-year contract for $100 million before people were signing those types of contracts. Now, like you said, Mel Tucker, we love him, but he just signed that deal basically. So
feels like Gruden would be bigger for me. Given the contract and the moment that so many people tried to hire him.
I agree, but I think my gut right now is Harbaugh. I think even if I took a step back, Harbaugh entertains me more.
Same.
And I think part of what would make Harbaugh feel so big is you just backed up Gruden with Harbaugh.
That'd be pretty crazy.